This is the first such case in the world as far as we know. What it says is there is not just one type of disease you can get from e-cigarettes.
New concerns tonight over vaping as a different type of lung damage is discovered, and Ontario confirms 2 new probable cases of vaping-related illnesses. The health minister confirming the new cases today, and it comes as medical experts say they've identified a new type of lung damage related to vaping. The case hitting a 17-year-old from London, Ontario, who almost died. Shannon Martin is live with us with more on this. Shannon, we've heard of thousands of cases in the U.S.,
That's
but
right.
This one is different.
So this is all coming from research by Ontario doctors published today in the Canadian Medical Association Journal. They say it's different because it's tied specifically to a certain chemical flavoring, so one that gives a buttery or caramel taste. It's safe to eat, but it is dangerous to inhale.
These parts of the lung should be fully black, and they're not. They're full of these small little white dots.
Dr. Teresa Martineau shows us a London, Ontario teen's CT scans. The damage from vaping plain to see. What's particularly stunning, she says, is only months earlier, the 17-year-old boy was otherwise
Normal, healthy, who was doing totally fine. No history of lung disease at all.
He did admit to vaping daily for 5 months, inhaling a number of flavors, his favorites, green apple and cotton candy. He also regularly added THC to the liquids. He went to hospital complaining of a cough, but within days was being considered for a double lung transplant.
To the point where the referring team was really worried that he was not going to make it.
The boy was suffering from something similar to popcorn lung, an illness first reported years ago. Named after workers at microwave popcorn plants who got sick after repeated exposure to chemical flavoring. That kind of lung infection, now connected to vaping, has never been seen before.
This is the first such case in the world as far as we know. What it says is there is not just one type of disease you can get from e-cigarettes.
Fortunately, the boy did not require a double lung transplant, and he's now back home, but doctors say he's not back to normal. He still suffers shortness of breath. These high schoolers say vaping is everywhere, and almost everyone is trying it.
I didn't know vaping was that serious.
What do you think it would take to get young people to stop vaping?
Just ban them. More stories. Yeah, I feel like you have to just ban them.
Right now, it's a patchwork of rules across the country. PEI is poised to bring in some of the toughest rules, banning certain flavors and raising the legal age to buy e-cigarettes from 19 to 21. BC made similar moves last week. Ontario will soon ban vaping ads in certain locations.
We are not doing enough to protect the public from the potential harms of these products. And by we, I mean governments, regulators.
Health Canada told CBC Toronto in an email that it's going to study this case out of London carefully, and they will continue to monitor the vaping-related illnesses in both the U.S. and Canada. They've been doing these consultations, but there's no clear idea when we could see some federal changes.
And more research needs to be done because we're getting more and more of these cases.
That's right.
Thank you for this, Shannon.
You're welcome.
Police released video footage of an alleged intentional hit and run that killed a 16-year-old boy in East York last month. And a warning to our viewers, this video contains graphic content. You can see an SUV on the bottom left of your screen running over Matthew Drever in the area of Woodbine on O'Connor on October 7th. A bystander is seen running away and avoiding the vehicle before approaching Drever after he was hit. The vehicle turns around and drives past the two before driving away. Police are looking for a dark blue or black Hyundai Santa Fe made between 2007 and 2012. They believe it may have front-end damage. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. The city is getting a new traffic enforcement team to crack down on dangerous drivers. It's part of the city's Vision Zero plan, the 5-year initiative working on reducing traffic-related deaths and injuries. So far this year, around 50 people have died in collisions, the majority of them cyclists and pedestrians. Angelina King was at Police Services Board meeting today and joins us live now from outside of police headquarters. And Angelina, you've talked to Safe Street advocates about this. What are they saying?
Well, Well, they say that, yes, this is good. It's nice to see some changes and some work being done, but they say it's just not enough, especially when it comes to the number of officers, because this new unit will see 3 officers on the street at once, including a supervisor, but they won't be on staff during the weekends. I also spoke to somebody who's on the road every day for work, and he says that safety issues are only getting worse.
They gunned the left, and I was going through the green light, and they smashed into me. 3
years ago, bike courier Brice Topher was hit by a van, picked up by an ambulance, and got stitches. He says every day at work, there's a moment he feels unsafe.
You have people, acting in ways that endanger everyone. So there's red light running, there's, turning illegally, there's even just people going through intersections in dangerous ways.
Do you have any declarations of interest?
The police service wants to stop that with the new Vision Zero enforcement team, traffic officers who will focus on high speed and high collision areas. The new unit will include 2 teams of 4 working a day and evening shift Monday through Friday, all on overtime.
If it's something that's going to help save lives, then I'm in favor of doing it every year, not just this year and not just on overtime.
There was a similar unit in place between 2003 and 2012. During that time, officers handed out 125% more traffic tickets than in the previous decade, and the number of collisions decreased by 24%. From 2013 to 2018, the years it disbanded, the number of collisions went up from around 55,000 to 80,000 per year.
Would Samuel Dan Kumar still be alive? Would Celeste Jones still be alive?
Road safety advocates told the board they're left wondering if deaths and injuries in that time could have been prevented. Jessica Speaker was hit by a car in 2015.
To what extent does the absence of enforcement, what did that contribute to my crash? I'll never know for sure, but now it's an extra question I have to just live with, that I don't know really what the answer is, but surely some responsibility lies with that.
The chief says traffic officers have always been patrolling roads and that this is a collective effort.
There are things that law enforcement can do, and there are other things that we need to do, from that education, that awareness piece, and that cultural shift.
For people like Topher, he welcomes the idea, but he's skeptical.
I feel like the situation on the road has become more dangerous since Vision Zero has been in place. So I think it really depends on the application. There has to be really a true enforcement of the laws.
The new unit will cost $1 million for the first year, and the new officers will be out on the streets likely as early as January. They'll be looking for what police call the Big Four: speeding, distracted driving, aggressive driving, and impaired driving. Dwight?
Oh, very dangerous. Thank you, Angelina. Premier Ford announcing a new provincial council today that will focus on working with the federal government.
I'm announcing that I will chair a new council of provincial and federal relations. My ministers and I will work to ensure that the interests of the people of Ontario are top of mind when we meet with the new federal government.
That meeting is scheduled to happen tomorrow in Ottawa. Ford says the new council will focus on securing federal funding for major transit projects and healthcare initiatives. The Premier was asked today about revelations this week that the province will have to pay more than $250,000 to cancel hundreds of green energy projects. Ford says the cancellations will end up saving taxpayers money.
I'm proud that we actually saved the taxpayers $790 million when we canceled those terrible wind turbines that is really for the last 15 years have destroyed our energy file.
The Premier also announcing today that all the provincial premiers will meet in Toronto on December 2nd. We are learning more about how the Ford government plans to run mandatory e-learning classes for high school students. It is a controversial plan set to begin the next school year. Today, the Education Minister provided more details on how it will work, and he's hoping it will help at the bargaining table. Lorinda Redekop has the details.
Tell me what you're doing here. Education Minister Stephen Lecce visited a company that teaches kids about robotics and coding.
So how long does it take to program?
As he announced details about online classes for high school students.
Ontario students will be required to take 2 online credits to graduate secondary school.
1, 2, 3.
That's down from the 4 online courses the government initially proposed.
He's gone halfways towards doing the right thing. But once again, this is a fire, ready, aim approach where they've made their decision. Now it's 2 e-learning mandatory courses.
This comes as bargaining is underway with the Union for High School Teachers. One of their issues has been the e-learning plan. Today, the union announced it's beginning labor action next Tuesday, the same day as elementary teachers. Among their actions, teachers will not participate in EQAO preparation or testing, participate in unpaid staff meetings outside the regular school day, or provide comments on any report cards, though they will submit marks. Lecce says his announcement shows the government is listening to teachers.
We're going to continue to do our job in good faith to get deals. But I need the unions to hear this message, to be reasonable.
This high school teacher did her PhD on e-learning in TDSB schools. She says it works for students doing well, but worries about other students. Her message to the minister?
Stop, put the brakes on completely. Half a disaster is not good enough. Our students deserve better.
As for e-learning, while it is mandatory, there will be some exemptions. He says more students want to learn online.
Having that capacity online with technology is vital. And so this is about really going where the puck is going in the context of how we learn and what we learn.
Lecce says the government will be doing consultations. The union argues that should have happened first. It's yet another issue that the 2 sides disagree on. Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
Ontario's controversial pit bull ban was up for debate at Queen's Park today. A private member's bill introduced by Conservative MPP Rick Nichols is trying to repeal the 15-year-old ban.
My fundamental goal is to provide a safe and humane communities and to be protected against all dangerous dogs of all breeds and types, while protecting dogs from cruel and irresponsible owners.
The ban was introduced by the Liberal government back in 2005 after a series of high-profile pit bull attacks. Today, it was argued that owners are to blame, not the animals, for bad behavior. It is a divisive issue within the Conservative Party, but it does have bipartisan support from the Greens and the NDP, along with numerous animal advocacy organizations, all saying the breed-specific legislation is discriminatory.
Biggest concern was the fact that we're euthanizing, not here, but other organizations are euthanizing very healthy, adoptable animals for no reason whatsoever, except that somebody thinks it looks like another animal that's dangerous.
We have a couple of dogs from the fight bus in Chatham. One of them is a police dog now in Virginia. One of them is actually a therapy dog for a senator in New Jersey. One of them is going to be an arson dog, the first pit bull arson dog in the U.S.
The House voted in favor of a second reading of the bill. Taking out the trash may cost you a lot more next year. The city is increasing rates and phasing out rebates for the smallest bin sizes in 2020, saying it's time to find new ways to encourage homeowners to reduce their household waste. Residents can expect a 2.5% rate hike along with rebate cuts for small and medium bins. This year, single-family homeowners were paying around $100. With the rebate for a small bin, that cost will go up around $86 come next year. For medium bins, rates will go up $82 to $323. Large and extra large bins will increase by $11 and $12, while bags will see a $4 hike. The changes are up for discussion when the Budget Committee meets on Monday.
A day after the Leafs fired their head coach, there are many questions surrounding the future of the struggling team.
It's been exciting and it's been nonstop coming to the arena here today and just then starting to coach. That's when it really felt normal getting on the ice.
I'm Greg Ross. Coming up, we hear from the Leafs' new head coach and we ask fans if they think Sheldon Keefe is the man to turn the team around.
We will take umbrellas and raincoats any day over shoveling.
Yeah, it's a lot easier, isn't it?
Yes.
The only time it gets a little difficult is when you got to hold on to those umbrellas because the winds are getting too strong. And we're going to see a scenario kind of like that as we head into these later evening hours. You should be okay in terms of tomorrow morning because it'll still be windy, but you won't need the umbrella. We'll have these rain showers tapering off overnight tonight. But they have been taking over the region, and as they're working their way through, something important is the direction of the winds as well. So through much of the GTA, we're still seeing a southeasterly flow, so our temperatures in here are around 5 degrees, but down around Niagara Falls and over towards St. Catharines, even back towards Hamilton, those winds have shifted towards the southwest, so we're seeing in St. Catharines 8 degrees now, so warmer, and that's really the direction we're all headed in the overnight hours. As also those winds shift around to the southwest, our temperature is actually going to be rising as we go through the overnight. These showers have to work their way through, at times getting heavier. We've got a heavier batch that's just pushing in towards the downtown core. That's going to be moving through over the next hour. Once these move through, say after about 2 a.m., they will start to weaken and things will be drying up, but those winds will continue to ramp up, and we'll see some of those wind gusts really getting strong up towards 50, even 60 kilometers an hour and exceeding that. On the backside, with some colder air moving in as the winds turn more towards the west, towards tomorrow morning, some squalls will set up, and a few of those flurries could make their way to the GTA, but primarily I think we'll be looking at a dry day with our skies improving actually and getting into some sunshine. There are some of those wind gusts, so as we go through the overnight hours, 70 or even stronger than that, and even tomorrow morning, we don't need the umbrellas, but we're still, going to be patting the hair down a little bit. Look at the temperatures, as I mentioned, rising tonight, so up to 9, falling tomorrow. By tomorrow afternoon, Dwight, we're going to be around 2-3 degrees.
I won't be patting my hair. It doesn't move.
No,
Thanks, Colin.
You're lucky. Yeah, I got problems.
Our Leafs will have a new coach behind the bench tonight when they face off in a few hours from now against the Arizona Coyotes. Sheldon Keefe will try to get the season back on track after a losing streak that resulted in Mike Babcock being shown the door. As Greg Ross reports, Keefe faced the cameras as the Buds' new coach for the first time today.
I recognize the responsibility and the privilege.
The fact that he now carries the weight of Leafs Nation on his shoulders is not lost on Sheldon Keefe, but he says he's ready to try and right what has gone wrong with his new team this season.
We have good players here. We have a good team. I think my message to the players today is that I'm not focused on what this team isn't. I'm focused on what this team is.
It's a team that came into this season with high expectations but failed to live up to them. Many have suggested the players simply lost confidence in Mike Babcock as a coach.
You could see the frustration in their eyes, and I really thought, even in our last game, that the players were working really hard, but there was a sort of a belief missing in them.
Just kind of reading off the players and watching them, how they were reacting to different things, that it was probably just time.
Back in Toronto, many Leaf fans have lost confidence as well.
It looks like this season's a write-off.
But they do seem willing to throw their support behind the new coach.
From what I've heard, everything seems that his record is pretty good, so I mean, he's got as good a chance as anyone, I guess.
Now it's up to the players to do the same.
It's obviously a bit of a different feeling today, but as players, we got to answer the bell.
It's going to be a work in progress, and we're all going to have to really, stay with it and compete.
Keefe didn't get a chance to hold a full practice with his new team before tonight's game, but he does have a history with many of the players, having coached more than half of them when they played for the Marlies.
It's just a lot easier for me coming into the room today and being around the guys and talking with them. And as I said, it really, I wasn't sure how it was going to feel and how it was going to be, but it really just felt like coaching.
Only now he's coaching at a much higher level. Tonight marks his first game behind the bench in the NHL. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Good luck, Coach. Former Humboldt Bronco hockey player Ryan Strachniski continues to make some remarkable progress since having spinal surgery in Thailand. Ryan was left paralyzed from the chest down after the 2018 team bus crash, but new video shows Ryan on his feet again, and his mom here in Canada is thrilled.
I don't know. I just really don't even have the words. I'm just so incredibly thankful and proud of him. He's as amazed as we are, I think. He didn't know that it would come this quickly. And it's not a cure-all or anything, but it's certainly very, very positive.
Ryan's dad shared this video on social media of Ryan taking some of his first steps since the accident, albeit with the help of a walker-like apparatus and therapists. He had an epidural stimulator implanted in his spine earlier this month in the hope of restoring some movement. The family says they want their son's progress to give other people hope.
Ambassador Sondland stated that the president only cares about big stuff. I noted there was big stuff going on in Ukraine, like a war with Russia.
Eye-opening testimony from two U.S. experts on Ukraine and Russia at the Trump impeachment hearings today. We'll hear more from them and get an update from Washington coming up.
The weather update is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
More trouble for Donald Trump today at the public hearings of the congressional impeachment inquiry. One star witness says he overheard the U.S. president push for Ukraine to investigate Democratic rival Joe Biden and his son. A second witness criticized Republican lawmakers for pushing a, quote, fictional narrative of Ukrainian interference into the 2016 U.S. election. Katie Simpson has more on today's developments.
Both of these witnesses had no doubt President Donald Trump was trying to pressure Ukraine to investigate his political rival, an effort so strong this State Department analyst says work at the embassy in Kyiv was overshadowed
by a political agenda promoted by former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, and a cadre of officials operating with a direct channel to the White House.
David Holmes testified he understood Ukraine needed to announce an investigation into Democratic challenger Joe Biden and possible Ukrainian interference in the 2016 election before the White House would agree to a face-to-face meeting between the U.S. and Ukrainian presidents. His perception cemented after he overheard a call between Trump and the U.S. ambassador to the EU, Gordon Sondland.
I then heard President Trump ask, so he's going to do the investigation. Ambassador Sondland replied that he's going to do it. In particular, I asked Ambassador Sondland if it was true that the president did not give an expletive about Ukraine. Ambassador Sondland agreed that the president did not give an expletive about Ukraine. And Ambassador Sondland stated that the president only cares about big stuff. I noted there was big stuff going on in Ukraine, like a war with Russia. And Ambassador Sondland replied that he meant big stuff that benefits the president, like the Biden investigation that Mr. Giuliani was pushing.
Republicans defended Trump, suggesting investigations into election interference are justified.
At the end of the day, isn't it the commander-in-chief that makes those decisions?
But that tactic was slammed by this former national security advisor who says these arguments have been debunked as Russian conspiracy theories.
And I would ask that you please not promote politically driven falsehoods that so clearly advance Russian interests.
That plea was ignored by some Republicans who continued their staunch defense of the president as the public hearing portion of this process wraps for the week. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
Israel may be heading to its third election in just a year, as no party has so far managed to form a coalition government. And today there's another big twist in the chaotic situation. The Attorney General indicted Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in connection with a series of corruption cases. Netanyahu says the charges are tantamount to an attempted coup against him. Netanyahu is accused of accepting hundreds of thousands of dollars in gifts from billionaire friends. It's also alleged that he offered to trade favors for positive news coverage with a wealthy telecom magnate. This is the first time a sitting Israeli prime minister has been charged with a crime.
I am looking forward to listening to people who are in the industry.
Working to soothe regional tensions, one of the challenges facing the Trudeau government and its newly reconfigured cabinet. The prime minister met with his new front bench earlier today. We'll bring you the details coming up. Just a day after swearing in his new cabinet, it's down to business for the Prime Minister and his inner circle. They held their first cabinet meeting, but even before that discussion, Justin Trudeau was meeting up with two mayors from Western Canada. Julie Van Duzen joins us with more now. So, Julie, who was the Prime Minister meeting with today?
Well, it's been a very busy day for the Prime Minister. He's certainly right into it after that cabinet swearing in this morning. He met first with Mayor Naheed Nenshi of Calgary. The whole theme was kind of Western alienation, and Nenshi had lots to say, certainly to the Prime Minister, about the energy sector and Western alienation. And about an hour later, we saw Kennedy Stewart go in, so he spent 45 minutes or so with the Prime Minister. He's the mayor of Vancouver. His concerns were different, talking about transit and housing and the opioid crisis. Back to Nenshi, he really wanted the Prime Minister to commit. He said he had a very blunt conversation with him about two environmental bills that Alberta thinks are stifling energy and oil development. But it's really clear that the two are on different pages, and certainly with Kennedy not wanting to be lumped in with Alberta's Western alienation. Take a listen.
This stuff is real around Western alienation. It's important and it's real. And I know that everyone understands that, including the Prime Minister. And we've got some real work to do.
I feel like we're being a little bit hijacked by kind of Alberta's agenda. And in British Columbia, we want to get these things rolling.
So, Julie, were there any signs the government wants to seriously address the Prairie Province concerns?
Yeah, well, this is a big issue, but as you heard Kennedy Stewart say, hijacked, but there is a huge focus by this cabinet on what to do with the West, because they don't really have much representation there, certainly not in Alberta and Saskatchewan. So several key ministers, Jim Carr, who's the point person for the prairies, the new Environment Minister, Jonathan Wilkinson, and Seamus O'Regan, all talked about having an openness to these environmental bills that are really ticking off the West. An openness, but just how they're implemented. But take a listen to Seamus O'Regan, who's headed to Calgary tonight.
I am looking forward to listening to people who are in the industry and, particularly workers, industry, investors, business, and officials in the provincial governments affected to find out what their ideas are on that.
So to make it easier for the oil industry, that's what we understand?
Moving on.
So if he doesn't have problems with the West, well, it gets better, and you will understand the significance of this. Tomorrow he meets with another premier. He's met with many, and Doug Ford will be sitting in his office tomorrow morning, and you know how that went during the election campaign.
Yeah, we will have that tomorrow. Senior reporter Julie Van Duzen in our Parliamentary Bureau in Ottawa. Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome.
Former Toronto City Councillor Jim Karygiannis has launched a bid to reclaim his seat. The longtime councillor was removed by the city this month over irregular election spending. It stems from an expensive dinner he hosted around 2 months after last year's vote. Nick Boisvert has more.
The former Ward 22 councillor was not in court today, so it was his legal team tasked with trying to reclaim his seat on Toronto City Council. That's a position that Karygiannis lost earlier this month after the city clerk turned up some irregular election expenses. The culprit was a $27,000 dinner that Karygiannis hosted shortly after last year's municipal elections. Events of that type are usually subject to a strict spending limit of around $6,000. Municipal laws say violation of that rule means an automatic dismissal. In his defense today, Karygiannis' lawyer said the expense was actually a fundraising event, which isn't subject to those same limits, and that his client was essentially kicked off city council on an accounting error. The expense was also out in the open, they say, further proof that Jim Karygiannis wasn't trying to hide anything. Adam Chaliff is a voter who called for Karygiannis to be audited earlier this summer. He says the former councillor has never properly explained the event or how the mistake happened, and he says it fits an established pattern.
I think there are many series of events that had to occur for him to get to this point, and it's difficult to imagine that it was simply, the wrong piece of paper was submitted.
Karygiannis is now challenging Toronto and the city's clerk who triggered his removal, but lawyers on the side of the city say the legislation exists for a reason and that it can't be so easily overturned. The judge hearing the case says he's going to try to make a decision by Tuesday. That's an important date because that's when City Council is set to discuss the currently vacant seat. Nick Boisvert, CBC News, Toronto.
Prince Andrew may have stepped back from public duties, but he's not out of the spotlight yet. Questions persist about his relationship with convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, and lawyers for alleged victims insist he should immediately cooperate with the investigations underway. Renee Filipponi has the latest.
But you were staying at the house of a convicted sex offender.
It was a convenient place to stay.
The move to step out of public life didn't come as a surprise following the interview that's been described as a train wreck. And this morning, yet again, Prince Andrew dominated the front pages. One calls him an outcast, another reads, "I'm sorry, mummy." Lawyers for Jeffrey Epstein's victims are reacting, saying they're glad Prince Andrew made the move, but are raising issues with a specific part of his letter. In it, he wrote, "Of course, I am willing to help any appropriate law enforcement agencies with their investigations if required." And it's the if required part that they take issue with.
All I can say is he should volunteer to cooperate with law enforcement without any condition and without any more delay.
She would like to see him go to authorities and not wait till he's compelled to do it. Epstein may be dead, but there are still a number of civil lawsuits and an ongoing criminal investigation into anyone who may have conspired with him. The prince was seen today waving while leaving his home in Windsor, and while the official statement is he went to the Queen to ask to step down, some royal insiders are saying that it was in fact the Queen and Prince Charles that forced his hand. Now, the prince said this move to private life was for the, quote, foreseeable future. How long that is, no one knows. This is an unprecedented move in modern times.
Maybe if he sort of disappears for 5 years, he might be able to come back. But even so, I can't see what there is left. Now, none of these modern-facing companies are really going to want their name associated with him at all.
He certainly has my support, and you know, he's made a mistake. He was naive.
I should apologise to the victims, of Epstein's victims, and if he did have anything to do with it, then maybe he should come clean.
Stepping down from public life also means losing a very hefty paycheck. Andrew will no longer get the nearly $450,000 a year from the sovereign grant, money specifically for official duties. However, it's understood his mom, the Queen, also provides him with a large sum of money every year, and that will continue. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, London.
Russian scientists say an unprecedented effort to release 97 captured whales back into the wild has been a success. They had been held captive for a year in a so-called whale jail in eastern Russia, but intense domestic and international pressure pushed Russia's government to free the whales and return them to the ocean. Chris Brown has the story.
Russia's prisoner whales are now free after the largest and most complicated whale release operation ever attempted. A total of 10 orcas and 87 belugas were all captured illegally and held for a year in watery cells that became known as Russia's whale jail, destined for aquariums in China. But a crush of domestic and international pressure pushed Russia's government to intervene. The releases began in the summer, with the last whale swimming free earlier in November. And today, officials said remarkably, they believe all are still alive.
So it was a real victory of science and the victory of ecological movement.
The biggest challenge was getting the whales back to where they were caught, almost 2,000 kilometers away. So with military-like precision, fisheries officials first loaded the orcas onto trucks for a bumpy journey overland before transferring them into containers on a river barge for a 6-day journey north, and finally releasing them near where they could find food and maybe other family members. Scientist Vyacheslav Bizakov says they know one whale nicknamed Zoya that had a satellite tracker joined up with other wild orcas, and eating hasn't been a problem. Unusually, Russia brought in foreign experts as advisors and even asked arch critics such as Greenpeace to monitor releases. And while this environmentalist says their advice wasn't always taken, he's pleased nonetheless with how things turned out.
Wild animals, when they came back to nature, they can survive without help of people.
The plan is to track some whales by satellite and, if possible, others visually to monitor their progress. But this encounter gives the scientists hope. Just a week after its release, a whale nicknamed Alexandra approached some fishermen who tried to feed her a fish, and she wasn't interested. A good sign that they don't need food from people anymore. Chris Brown, CBC News, Moscow.
Good news there for those whales. Glad to see them back where they belong. Is our weather where it's supposed to be right now?
Well, I mean, the forecast is verifying, so yeah, I guess so. That's what counts for me most of the time. But I'm not sure it's what everyone necessarily enjoys. We've got kind of a flip-flop situation going on in terms of with the temperatures rising through the overnight tonight. Rain will be tapering off through, I'll say, around 1, 2 a.m., or at least getting much lighter and kind of moving out. It's moving through pretty quickly, actually. Our temperatures, though, they're actually going to be falling through the day tomorrow, so that's part of that flip-flop. And windy evening tonight and tomorrow morning, and then the winds begin to improve. Just having a look at this time of year, our average high, 5.8, average low, which you would normally expect to come in the overnight hours, in the negatives, whereas tonight we're going to be climbing towards double digits. Probably won't get there, but getting up around 8, 9 degrees. Already at 9 in St. Catharines. Here we are, Toronto and Oshawa, because the winds still being from the southeast. Haven't quite turned to the southwest, so the temp's not rising yet. There are the rain showers. When we get into some of these reds and oranges, some of the heavier bouts that we're getting, working their way through, still all the way back towards the west of London, and so that's why it's going to take till after midnight before this all moves through. And then even behind that, a little bit of drizzle kind of carrying on back towards southwestern Ontario. Now, this has stopped at Friday morning, so you see with some of the colder air that moves in behind coming across the relatively warmer waters of the lakes, there will be some light lake effect snow or flurry activity through here. A few squalls may set up because the wind's so strong until those ease, and so a flurry could make their way into our skies, down into the GTA, in towards the city, but I don't really expect it, and if anything, we'll start to see a clearing trend and get some sunshine. So even though those temperatures will be falling, the sky conditions will be getting better, and it looks pretty good in that sense into the start of the weekend too. So there are those stronger winds with the rain ending, but the temps coming up overnight, and then tomorrow afternoon the winds actually coming down. They'll be getting better, but still gusts towards about 40 kilometers an hour, whereas in the morning hours they may be gusting over 60, especially down around St. Catharines and through Niagara Falls in that region where there's a special weather statement. So there are the cooler afternoon temps, and then Saturday, Sunday, hey, it's looking like not a bad weekend coming our way. So yeah, I think the weather's on course, Dwight.
Man, you got a big fan right here. I like those numbers. Thanks,
Oh, you
Colette.
do?
Yeah, look
Yay!
at that, 7 on Tuesday. We'll take it.
Woohoo!
I think pharmacists are just excited for the opportunity to be able to help our patients besides just, here's your prescription, here's how to take it.
Dispensing a diagnosis. More Canadian pharmacists are taking on doctors' responsibilities. We look at the growing trend and the concerns from within the medical community. That story coming up. Pharmacists across the country are seeing their role in our healthcare system expand. Some are not just dispensing medications, they're now prescribing for minor ailments or giving flu shots. In Ontario, pharmacists are recommending they do even more. Patients seem to like the idea, but some doctors aren't so keen. Health reporter Cass Rusi explains.
Hey, Michael.
Brian Rhodes visits his local drugstore to pick up a prescription for allergies.
We also have another one that I can show you on the other side.
For Michael Demian, dispensing advice along with prescribing drugs comes with the job. But the Toronto pharmacist says he can and wants to do more.
I think pharmacists are just excited for the opportunity to use more of our education and be able to help our patients besides just, here's your prescription, here's how to take it.
In Canada, the scope of what pharmacists can and can't do depends on where you live. In Nova Scotia, they can prescribe for minor ailments like acne and cold sores. Alberta can also authorize antibiotics, and Saskatchewan can prescribe birth control and bladder infection medication.
But there are a couple other vaccines that we really should look at doing for you.
For Barry Kenyon, a visit to his local pharmacy is not only convenient, it's a comfort. He's caretaker to his ailing wife, so he's grateful for any bit of help he gets here.
They've kind of taken the bull by the horn, so to speak, and been able to remedy her diabetes problem. They've looked after her urinary tract infections by proper prescriptions.
A lot of times we know our patients really well. We see a lot of our patients over and over again, much more often than any other healthcare professional. So having that type of convenience is really timely care for the patient.
But some doctors are worried, calling it a slippery slope. They say if pharmacists do more diagnosing, mistakes can happen. Doctors want to see hard evidence that the expanded role of pharmacists is working.
I actually really would like to see some method of evaluating the impact of the changes that have already happened, because I've not seen that happen, and I think it would be informative.
What do patients want? This professor believes doctors and pharmacists can collaborate.
This is in no way, shape, or form stepping on a physician's toes. We want to help optimize patient outcomes, and that's what we're here to do.
Michael, I'm going to take this.
In Toronto, Brian Rhodes agrees and feels pharmacists are underutilized. And he's pretty sure that this visit just saved him a few hours of wait time at a doctor's office.
Hey, take care. See you again soon. Bye-bye.
Cass Rusi, CBC News, Toronto.
People want to support me, and I'm really happy about that.
She is the youngest entrepreneur to ever be at the One of a Kind show, and it's for these cool t-shirts. We'll bring you her story coming up. It's called the Stubway and the Subway to Nowhere. This week in 2002, the Shepherd line officially opened. It took 8 years to build at a cost of $1 billion, now known as Line 4. It stretches 5 stations along Shepherd from Yonge to Don Mills.
Convenient for me because I don't drive a car. So I can come out of my apartment, onto the subway, and I'm away.
I think it's a good idea. I'm sorry it doesn't go farther.
To this day, Line 4 carries about 50,000 riders every day. That's less than the King streetcar. Bessarion is Toronto's second least used subway station with only about 3,000 daily riders. The province says it still has plans to extend Line 4 to McCowan Station on Line 2. The one-of-a-kind show kicked off today, and their youngest vendor is 11-year-old Lilu Monleon. We spoke with her about her hand-drawn T-shirts and how she's making her doodles into fashion.
Hello, my name is Lilu. I'm 11 years old and I'm the founder and creator of Liloodles. This is our first show at One of a Kind. People want to support me and I'm really happy about that. This is the Maple Leaf one. There's the small Kawhi Leonard, this small one, and these are all the prints. I've seen quite a few people wear these shirts around, and that made me very happy. Our t-shirts have traveled everywhere.
I'm Diana Tran. I'm the momager of Liloodles. I handle the back end of Liloodles, and I work for my daughter. We had no intention or background in retail clothing. Her father and I took an existing image that she had already drawn for her uncle as a print. So we took that image, we scanned it, and we took it to the local print shop, and we made t-shirts for ourselves. Fast forward now to 3.5 years, we're here at One of a Kind. It's a little overwhelming, but people keep asking for them. I think her stuff is actually really, really good, and she touches a lot of people in so many different ways. I'm really fortunate to have such a creative mind on my hands. Her father and I are, you know. I hoard everything she draws since she learned how to scribble.
This one I did with like my sister. So this is like one of my favorites.
I work and have fun at this place.
Why it's important for me to give to charities is only because I want to help causes, and I think I can make a change if I just keep donating to like causes in need, like the LGBT youth line.
Good on you, kid. Okay, will this rain go away or will it come back another day? Colette will give us the details after the break. We'll be right back, folks. It's a burger that has been in the making for a decade, topped with cheddar cheese that's made in-house. We checked out the spot in the city's East End that's serving up an American cuisine classic with seasonal ingredients. Take a look.
There's always going to be new restaurants. There's always going to be the next cool thing to go and check out, but I think there needs to be, some sort of cornerstone and consistency in a neighborhood where you can go and get a great burger. You can go and get a great, glass of beer. My name is Jesse Valens. I'm the executive chef at Maple Leaf Tavern. We are located in Gerrard Square. We are at Maple Leaf Tavern a North American tavern. We want to be welcoming, we want to have great hospitality, and we want to make food that people just want to eat. One of the most popular dishes at Maple Leaf Tavern is our cheeseburger. The burger is very special to me. I've been working on it for years at more than one establishment. We make every element of this burger in-house. So the burger itself, the patty is ground from 100% strip loin steak. We use very good quality meat, great meat to fat ratio. We process our own cheese to go on top. We make our own buns. We make our toppings, our relish, our mayonnaise, and we serve it very simply just with those toppings. And I really think it's one of the best burgers in the city.
You can do your part this holiday season to support food banks across the GTA. Donate to CBC Toronto's Sounds of the Season fundraiser with Daily Bread Food Bank. We are collecting money in non-perishable food donations here at the Broadcast Center. You can also donate online or over the phone. And on Friday, December 6th, we're having an open house here at CBC Toronto. There will be activities, live performances, different events all day, so come on down and bring a donation. Should be a good day for the food bank, and you get to hang out with Paulette too, right? Wow. All right, so my colleagues are making fun of me because I'm so excited to see a 7 come Monday, but we'll take, after that snowstorm, I'm still recovering.
Just stay up late tonight and you'll get a 9.
Wow.
How about that?
Look at that.
Go to St. Catharines, you got 10.
Oh.
Yeah, our temperature is actually rising through the overnight tonight. That's that kind of flip-flop we're seeing as the southwesterly winds get quite strong. So they will be very gusty overnight and tomorrow morning, and then they'll start to ease tomorrow afternoon. We keep the rain showers through part of the overnight, but then drying up by tomorrow morning. And what happens is our winds actually will be shifting, and as they do, we get some clearing, so the sun comes back, but the temperature then, Dwight, starts to fall through the day tomorrow.
It's the opposite. And the numbers together, okay.
No, can't do it. We will, though, as you say, when we get into Monday, see some nice temperatures and sky conditions.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Colin. I thought it was all done after that snowstorm. I thought we were done for the year.
No.
That's it for us tonight. Thank you for watching. Mike Wise had you covered at 11. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody.